make sure to subscribe that like button and hit that smash. Welcome to my YouTube channel, where today I'm going to be making a custom enclosure for my dead leaf praying mantis. Now, most of you probably know by now that I really like praying mantises. In fact, I have 10 species that I'm currently keeping. Of the 10 species, I've had the dead leaf the longest, so I figured it's time to make it a good enclosure. Now, I am going to go into a little bit more detail for those of you that saw my video about a month ago. I'm going to explain a little bit about why I'm doing this. If you would like to skip that, as it's not necessary for the video whatsoever, you can skip ahead to this timestamp. But for those of you who want to stick around and listen to me yap about how indecisive I am, welcome. As most of you know, a little over a month ago, I set out to create the ultimate praying mantis setup, and that I did. I created a total of 12 different enclosures of different sizes and environments that would house each mantid as they grow. This made sense at the time as I had so many praying mantises and needed an easy way to keep them, but I hate it. So this is what it looks like now. It is completely dismantled. Everything is gone except for obviously the praying mantises. And I know it's super counterproductive and I spent a lot of time and money on that, but I just don't like the way it worked. Throughout my time in this hobby, I have stuck strictly to DIY custom enclosures that are specifically tailored to the needs of each animal. So that is the reason why I am making a custom enclosure for this mantis. It's the way that I roll. That's how I do things. That's how I've always done things. That's how I'm going to continue to do things. So with that said, it's time to take a look at the materials, but in order to do that, we got to go to the garage. Okay, we're here in the garage. Some of the materials I'll be using include this glass, a few different sizes of wooden dowels, as well as some 5-minute epoxy and some hinges. Now, of course, there are a few other materials I'll be using, such as, maybe stain, sandpaper, just kind of like smaller random materials I might have laying around. I don't really have like a full-on plan for this, but I kind of know the general idea of what I want to do. I'll also be using stuff, like neodymium magnets, and then when I do the background, spray foam, dry lock, etc.
So the first thing we need to do is
cut the glass. Okay, so our glass is all cut. So like you guys have seen me do before when building an aquarium, I'm going to tape up the pieces so that I can assemble the whole thing, and then we're going to silicone it. Because this tank is a lot bigger than the ones I normally do, I don't think I'm going to tape off the edges. I might do it on the front ones, but other than that, I think I'm just going to leave it. Also, I'm going to be putting a wood frame kind of around the bottom and sides and stuff, so it's not really going to matter that much. So again, the next thing, we're going to take some of this tape and then some isopropyl alcohol, and I'm going to assemble a tank and make it look pretty. Okay, so our little aquarium's all silicone and stuff. I know it looks like just another aquarium now, but trust me, it will look better once we get the wood pieces on the corners, because that's also how I'm going to do the hinges for the door. Those wooden dowels that I showed earlier, those are going to be my main, the frame and all that, and it'll look a lot better and more stable once we get to that part. But, now that the tank's done, this also means that I have to wait 24 hours, and you guys know how I feel about that, so, Okay, it's now the next day. That was fun. So our little tank is all finished up. We can start removing all the tapes and whatnot now. But the next thing that we need to do is build the frame out of these wooden dowels that I showed earlier. I'm just going to do it in a way, not really sure how, but I'm gonna have some sort of thing on the front like that, just, you know, so that I can create a frame and just a better surface to put like hinges and a handle and whatnot on it. So I'm going to cut up a bunch of these pieces and I'm gonna make almost like corner frames. So I'm gonna put a piece on this side and then on the front. And then in order to attach it, normally I would use something like super glue, but super glue gets the glass all weird. So I think I'm going to use some of this 5-minute epoxy. I've got quite a bit of it laying around. It'll create a stronger adhesion, but also won't leave any of the gross white stuff. So the first thing I'm gonna do is measure the full length of the aquarium and then transfer those measurements onto our wooden dowel. Then I cut a piece of it and cut a bunch more to the same length. I also took a couple of those thicker pieces you saw earlier and ran them through the table saw and then cut those to the same length. Okay, all of our little pieces are cut, and as you can see, there's a lot of them. But we got like the frame pieces here, and then the bottom and the top frame, and then the front is a little more complicated, obviously, because we have to put, you know, these here and then do the hinges because of the door. There's still a few stickers on these that I have to get off, and then I want to sand every piece. I'm going to stain them at some point. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that yet, but I'm going to sand all those down just so they're nice and smooth, and then I'm also going to sand any sharp parts on the tank just to make sure that everything is great. I'm really liking how this is turning out so far. It's like I said, a bit complicated to understand now, and it's kind of all a mess right now, but I think once we get them sanded, stained, and then once I get them onto the actual tank, I think it'll all start to really come together and it'll look very good. Hi, make sure you subscribe or I'll come into your house and eat you alive. Just kidding. Okay, so all of our pieces have been stained and they have been, you saw me use that clear spray paint that will protect it and just give it a little bit of a shine. The next thing I need to do is mix up some of that aforementioned epoxy and glue these pieces onto the tank. I think it's going to look really good once we get these pieces on there, and then we'll be looking pretty good. So like I just said, now that the pieces are all stained and the coat of the clear spray paint is on them, the next thing we need to do is start by mixing some of the 5-minute epoxy that I showed earlier and then apply it to all of the little strips of wood. After that, I went and put them onto the tank to make sure that they stay and don't fall off. After that, I just repeated the process 486 more times to get our tank. Well, we're starting to get something here. All of the wood pieces are attached. I think it looks pretty clean so far. I had to sand down a little bit of this side and then the glass just because it was not really fitting. I installed our little handle, and then the door is still curing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the hinges on here, and then I'm going to do magnets, I think one in there and one in there. That way we can squish it together and it'll stay put. And as I'm sure some of you were probably wondering, my plan for the mesh top is I think I'm just going to get a piece of mesh and just staple it along here. I have another piece of this stuff that I think I'm going to attach along the back of here. So the next few things that I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the mesh, I'm going to staple that in after I cut and stain another piece of that wood. And then I'm going to go back and touch up some of those little parts on the tank like I said with the stain. And then after that we can move on to the door. So let's get this going. Well, that's going to do it for this week's video. I got the tank right next to me. Really happy with the way this one turned out. I really love the functionality of it. I love the look of it. I love the overall design of it. I am not done though. This week was just showing you how I set up this enclosure, and next week we'll be actually planting it and doing a custom background. And then within the coming weeks, I will also make more of these, more Mantis enclosures. I probably won't show you guys the process of this again since you've already seen it, but definitely stay tuned for those. Like I said, that's going to do it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know what you think about this little buggy box down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all next week.